If House Bill 1249 passes the Senate, it will become law, meaning that it will allow concealed weapons to be carried on college campuses here in Arkansas. A Sherwood man battling ALS is defying the odds. Kipling Jackson is refusing to let his ALS diagnosis be a death sentence. Dozens of people were jumping out of these second-story windows in fear of not knowing who the shooter was or where the shooter was located. According to police earlier this morning, a woman walking along this trail near Reedy Road found the body of 26-year-old Nicholas West. Hundreds of demonstrators stood on the Arkansas State Capitol steps today to take a stance against gun violence. A morning of terror.
I did see people busting out the window. It seemed like they were hurting themselves, trying to save themselves and get away from the chaos.
It was 2:30 Saturday morning. Rapper Finesse 2 Times began his final set on the second floor of Power Ultra Lounge when, according to police, in 11 seconds, 24 shots from multiple guns began firing into a packed crowd of club-goers.
Hello.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
I'm in Power, and my best friend just got shot.
Okay, where at?
I'm in Power Nightclub.
Power Nightclub? You know what address that is?
I don't know. It's Power Nightclub downtown.
In those 11 seconds, 25 people were shot.
It's people everywhere saying that they've been shot. Come on now.
They're on their way. I have to get the information, ma'am. I'm just asking what I can.
Hours later, daylight reveals a scene of chaos in front of the nightclub. Jaron Eccles was shot 3 times in his right hip area.
I was like, man, I got to get out the door. Like, I was just hoping I didn't die.
Cruz Williams, a father of 2, hid behind a bar before running for the exit.
What went through my mind immediately was my children and why am I here? Why am I not at home?
Dozens of people were jumping out of these second-story windows in fear of not knowing who the shooter was or where the shooter was located. Right now, police are confirming 28 people have been injured. Fortunately, at this time, all victims are expected to survive. Reporting in Little Rock, I'm Meagan Johnson. Severe thunderstorms ripped across Arkansas this weekend, leaving a trail of damage, causing severe flooding and producing an EF1 tornado. Saturday night, an EF1 tornado blew through Kaiser, Arkansas, leaving the small town of about 800 people in ruins. Jason Dunlap has lived in Kaiser his whole life and says around 7:30 Saturday night, his phone alerted him of a tornado warning. He, his fiancée, and baby then took shelter in the hallway. And he says within a few minutes.
It's like a freight train coming through. You feel the pressure in the house changing and everything it was so quick. You hear stuff hitting my house and it was over with.
The next morning, Jason woke up to the harsh reality of the damage the tornado had done to the town where he grew up.
Just disaster. I mean, I look back here, this house has been here for years and it's part of it's almost in my backyard.
Birch Milano has also lived in Kaiser his whole life.
Just worry about the people that are in Kaiser and make sure everything's okay with everybody.
Birch says after seeing the damage, he didn't know what his hometown was going to do.
Didn't know how much it was going to cost or how we were going to get it done or anything like that.
And then volunteers began to roll in bright and early Sunday morning.
I mean, there's no words for it. It was unbelievable, so we appreciate it.
The EF1 tornado that ripped Kaiser apart Saturday night had a bitter way of bringing this small town and nearby cities closer together than ever before.
Look uptown and it's just small communities like this and everybody's came together, other towns. It's amazing.
In Kaiser, the evidence of the EF1 tornado is still apparent, but also in Kaiser is the evidence of compassion.
Cleanup's already started and everything's clean in my yard. Now it's time to help everybody else.
For News 6, I'm Meagan Johnson. 6 years ago, Kipling Jackson fell after his right leg went numb. Then his fingers began to spasm, then weakness in both of his legs.
I went from someone with an active lifestyle of jogging and playing soccer to wheelchair dependent in less than a year.
After 2 years of searching for answers, Kip and his wife Robin got a diagnosis they never imagined.
We just cried and we went through a couple months where it was really difficult.
The magnitude of Kip's diagnosis was difficult to accept.
This was a major change in our life.
Kip was diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
The brain stops sending messages to the muscles. So eventually the muscles atrophy and basically harden and won't move. These are our engagement pictures there.
About 3 years ago, Kip's brain stopped telling his lungs to breathe, so he opted to get a tracheostomy. Now a tube goes down Kip's throat to his lungs, filling his lungs with oxygen. Although this tube makes a way for Kip to breathe, it took his ability to speak, which for Robin was the most difficult part.
Out of everything that has changed in Kip's life, that's the number one thing I miss the most.
ALS has taken Kip's body, but this disease will never be able to take his passion.
I have the soul of a writer, and as far back as I can remember, I have dreamed up stories to write about.
Kip has always wanted to write a book, but he never could decide what he wanted to write about. After public speaking about his relationship with the disease, it became apparent exactly what story needed to be told.
And I realized how interested people were in my story and my passion for life, so I decided to give it a shot.
And Kip began to write his story using only his eyes.
That's amazing. I never would have guessed I would have reached with goal only using my eyes.
This computer is calibrated to Kip's eyes. To form a word, he simply focuses on specific letters.
He's completely typed every word of this book with his eyes. He's designed the cover with his eyes. He's ordered the publishing. He won't let me help at all.
His book, ALS, A Respiratory Perspective, is not just for people with ALS. It is for any person struggling with a terminal illness. Kip has ALS, but ALS doesn't define Kip Jackson. This diagnosis wasn't the end of his story, but the beginning.
You must decide you want to live and then do it. Every day is a new normal, but you can keep fighting and keep living. This is your life and your story. You get to decide how you want to live it.
For Channel 7 News, I'm Meagan Johnson.